Hey class, um, like I said in chapter two's re-record, this is the chapter three re-record. I'm hoping these work out better. And we're going to get started. We're going to get started with a discussion about the group project. So I have some slides to show with that. Then we'll get started with our lecture for the week. So this is our home screen for our iLearn course. You can see a bunch of tools on the left side of the screen, announcements on the right, and we'll see our messages and our form new entries listed here as well. Everything you need for the group project is in this resources tab, which is shown here. Under the Dirtbugs USA collaboration project, that's where all the files you need for our group projects are located. Here's a listing of the files I missed. Chapter 1 running case assignment, which is right above Chapter 2. So Group 1, you would open up the Dirtbugs running case document, where my cursor is now. That gives you details about the organization. Then you'd open up the Chapter 1 running case assignment.doc and answer the questions in that file. Group 2 will do the same thing for Chapter 2, Group 3 for Chapter 3, and so on. You can then work as a team to answer the questions within that document, create a slideshow with maybe Google Slides or PowerPoint, send the slides to me, and you should also be trying to record a short 5-minute presentation. You can use WebEx for students to do that. You can use any method you would record a video on. And I don't mind if one person presents the video, but both with WebEx and the other application, Beneldio, I think it's called, or excuse my pronunciation, you can have others join in and present. So let's try to catch up to date on those topics. So what are we looking for in this chapter? We're looking at what features of organization managers need to know about to use information systems. We're going to look at the impact of information systems. We're going to look at Porter's competitive forces model. We're not really going to look at the value chain model. I've taken those out of the slides. We'll look at synergies and core competencies, and we'll look at challenges posed by information systems, the biggest which is change. The homework for this week is GE. The video for in class is the NBA, and we'll move forward with that. I have posted the form question for this week. And let me just take a moment to see that. Sorry. I just wanted to make sure the form question. Akamai is a world leader in web hosting, and the video shows the relationship between the NBA and Akamai. The form question is research 2 or 3 other big brands that are hosted by Akamai. And then the second is really discuss the importance and the reasoning behind the NBA allowing each team to have unique content. So this discussion topic, Verizon and AT&T, which company has the best digital strategy? Well, for me, I have AT&T for my personal cell phones and DirecTV. I have Verizon for my business. at Greystone. With the launch of 5G earlier this year, and we're nowhere near hitting consumers, who's done a better job? From a pure marketing standpoint, I believe Verizon has. They've advertised their 5G offerings coming much better than AT&T has, but AT&T's done a better job implementing. It's already released to some businesses down south. Looking further at the digital strategy, Verizon, through its Fios platform, offers television and voice and internet to customers. AT&T, through their DirecTV acquisition, offers the same services as Verizon. Both are higher priced than, say, Sprint and cable companies, but they're purely digital platforms under one brand. Who does a better job? I think it's AT&T because, frankly, you can get DirecTV service anywhere. You can't get Fios everywhere. AT&T, if you can't get their fast broadband service, you can get satellite service through Hughes.net. So in my mind, AT&T does a better job. And I know I gave a different question in the other version of this video. So if we're watching this one, let's just discuss what cell phone carrier you have and why you or your family may have chosen it. I did a poll yesterday in class, and it was the winner were the mix of lower brand offerings, whether it be Sprint or T-Mobile, followed by Verizon, then AT&T. Just want to kind of get the same kind of poll from you all. So tell me who your provider is and maybe why we chose them. So where does IT fit into an organization? I don't really know the answer to that. Why don't I know the answer to that? Because we never really get a fair shake, regardless of what sector we're in, what type of business we are, because the core of the business always takes over. But an IT department, IS department should influence our organization structure, its processes, its politics and culture. It should support its politics and culture. It should manage its environment and its decisions. Now, looking at each, our structure is really based on what we want to do, how we're going to make it, how we're going to distribute it. What's our hierarchy going to look like? What's our division of labor look like? What's our organizational units look like? And from there, we can build upon our routines and business processes that we talked in Chapter 2. Politics. What do I mean by politics? It's really the importance placed on individuals within their organizational unit as it relates to the entire organization. We can look at our own political system here in the U.S. where Republicans and Democrats are fighting about this and that, trying to get their way. Same thing happens in any organization. Our culture, that's who we want to be. It starts with our mission and vision statements. It goes to our office environments, whether we're open floor plan with cubicles or we're occupied in a bunch of offices and conference rooms, how we communicate with each other, how open we are. Our environment, it's not the weather outside environment, but that plays a key. It's all the forces outside of our organization that provides inputs for us. We as the organization do processing and handle the outputs. And that output is part of our environment as well. And IT should be able to support decision making and allow all parts of our organization to make decisions. We do so by providing and maintaining data, having systems in place that properly process data and can disseminate the resultant information. This slide shows the bi-directional relationship that an organization should have with IT and the mitigating factors we just talked about a moment ago. So what's an organization? I used to struggle with this topic in that I thought there was one clear-cut definition of an organization. And to me, that was the technical, a formal structure based on processes, based on impacts of our environment to produce some kind of output. We'll look at a slide that really depicts that. An organization is something formal, it's legal, it has, maybe it has, shareholders guides that tells us exactly who we are when we look at our financials as well. But then I stress the importance of end users in an organization and IT department. So it makes me look at the behavioral approach, a collection of rights, privileges, and obligations and responsibilities that are balanced over time through conflict and conflict resolution. That leads to our definition of culture and politics and decision making. So it's important to note when we look at an organization is both technical and behavioral. This slide shows the technical approach. We get an input from our environment. Our organization processes that inputs and output back into our environment. The behavioral shows our structure, our hierarchy, how our labor is divided, what rules and governance we have in place, how we do our job in our culture, and then the rights, privileges, values, norms, and our people. We still come up with a resource or an input and an output. Features of organizations. As I said before, and we see it here, we need a hierarchy. We need accountability. We need people in charge. We need people following the rules. We need rules. We need business processes. We need routines. Of course, we're going to see culture, politics, and our environment play a role. We talked about routines and business processes both in Chapter 2 and now. So a routine is just the way we do our job. I'll tell you, my wife's company, Geodis, pays particular attention to routines. Each person in any given department, at least in their Poughkeepsie offices, has routines. They call them standard operating procedures or desk procedures. And those procedures stay at a person's desk. So should a person leave the organization, be sick, be traveling, someone can really pick up their document and know how they do a particular part of their job. Now for that whole department, in a nutshell, you take these routines, put them together, and that's the process for that part of the organization. Looking more at politics, and like I said, with Republicans and Democrats, it's different viewpoints, different ways we look at the world that cause struggle and conflict. We always want what we want when we want it, and we don't care who we step on to get it. So during my on-campus class yesterday, we took a look around the room in different majors, and most of the class had made up school and management people, and they thought they had prevalence. I brought up that we have a highly successful fashion major, so maybe they should have more importance. I brought up IT, computer science and information systems, with our emerging cybersecurity platform and our great relationship with IBM. Maybe that should be more important. Maybe a prospective medical student should be more important with the investment we have in the med school coming. But in my mind, if we go back and look here at process, rights, obligation, privileges, responsibilities, values, and norms, they should all be aligned to the culture of the business and the goals of the business. So you look back at Marxism, maybe they had it right when it looks to an organization itself, not a government, but maybe each part of the organization should be equal decision making. Maybe there'd be a lot less struggle. Maybe IT people would have an easier life in that we don't have to deal with politics and aversion to change. Culture, we already talked about our culture, what we're going to produce, how it's produced, what products should we be producing, who we want to be, what's our mission, what's our goals. In a conference room now, and I'm looking at two pictures. One's goals and one's integrity. Both things that fit Greystone to a nutshell. We just had a re-examination of who we are. We struggle for brand identity in the autism world, not only in Dutchess, Orange, Ulster, and Putnam, but anywhere we're looking for, say, donors. People don't simply know who we are. There's other brands that are bigger than us. Frankly, in the Hudson Valley, Greystone has a lot of different meanings. Our president's office at Marist is called the Greystone office. There's a building company called Greystone. So right now we're going through a brand awareness change. We're looking at redesigning our website. One of the things I'm working on. We may even look at our brand just to make people more aware of who we are. Because our culture is a little messed up because we have a problem with not knowing who we are. Thus, we're a little, distant right now. We're not unified under the Greystone brand because we see how much trouble the brand is in right now. So I hope after this brand campaign and website redesign, we'll be much more unified under one Greystone. So yesterday I took the class outside at Marist and we looked at our environment, all things that have an implication on Marist itself. I talked about the frozen river, how maybe we have problems getting oil to us to heat our buildings. We talked about electric companies. We talked about Internet of Things, smart home technologies, things that shouldn't be on the internet but are, like our campus lighting systems. We looked at how Marist is dependent on our social and physical environment. The social environment is all of you and how we interact and talk about Marist. The physical environment is anything up and down Route 9, our competition, entrance into our marketplace, like, the Phoenix.edus of the world. We can influence our environment as well as it have an impact on us. Look at all the outreach Marist does to communities. In particular, to me, there's a discussion next Tuesday about how we can do a better job of educating those with autism. And they've reached out within our local internal environment and outside, and I'm going to be bringing a trainer from my office as well as myself to talk on the topic. The last puzzle we're going to look at next is the information system can be an instrument of environmental scanning and act like a lens. What does that mean, guys? So we have an eye, we have the lens, we have the cornea sitting right in front. So much like a lens reflects light, the lens of the firm IS department refracts inputs from governments, competitors, customers, etc., and disperses it within the firm. Now realize this is bidirectional, so we can have an impact on government. We can have an impact on competitors, customers, etc. I love talking about disruptive technologies. They're a product that's replaced something by performing better than the existing product. Technology that brings sweeping change. So look at substitute products that didn't really bring sweeping change to business. Let's look at, maybe it does have significant change. In my 51 years, I've seen a lot of technology come and go. So the microwave oven was really introduced when I was, not even 10 years old, and it changed the way people prepared meals for their families. I used to listen to records on 33, and I don't remember the other speed, 55 maybe, where 55 was a single song followed by a B-side, a smaller version of what you all know as vinyl now, and the 33 was what we know as vinyl now. So you would put it on the phonograph, you take the needle, you play the song you'd want. But the smaller vinyl record is really the precursor to iTunes, where we can buy a single song. Even back in the 70s, we could buy a single song. So evolution came and we got something called an 8-track tape. So look on Google and search for 8-track tape and take a look at what they look like. They're big, clunky, rectangular looking things that we put in a player and play a song. We couldn't skip, we couldn't pick out a song we want. You just played it. Replaced by a cassette tape, much smaller medium. We had a little more control. Replaced by a CD, which we had great control with, and then replaced by MP3 and MP3 players. Our first look at digital music. Pretty much disrupted by Napster and Metallica fighting about intellectual property rights. Then came the big revolution, and that's iTunes. iTunes was created by Apple to save Apple. It was the measure they took to survive as an organization. Their biggest investment in systems, remember the first chapter of our class, Reasons Why We Invest in Technology, was to put in iTunes. iTunes has since changed the music world as we know it, though iTunes is now losing ground to things like Spotify. Other changes we look, the internet has caused changes the way we research. No longer do we look through volumes of microfiche or encyclopedias for information. Type something in Google. We look at the computer itself. The PCs replaced really mainframe computing, started the whole networking phase, replaced pricey word processing systems, typewriters, etc. Excuse me, having a little sinus problems. We've seen the third bullet, something called PageRank. PageRank is the final part of rendering search results within Google. We'll look more about Google's infrastructure later in the semester, but when you type a query into Google, it's funny, yesterday we typed in how I can make my students talk to me, because that's something that, Marist has a problem with students talking to professors. But it didn't get that far. It was stopped and said, why do my students not like me? So we got a good little soiree into that. Turns out people should like me. But what PageRank works, the query gets sent to a cluster of computers within Google's framework, and they typically use small, low-end computers to take out keywords. The keywords are passed to PageRank. PageRank scores them and renders the results to you. An organization has 5 basic types: entrepreneurial, machine bureaucracy, divisionalized bureaucracy, professional bureaucracy, and headocracy. What's important to know here, the organizational structures aren't important. What's important to know is IT and IS must reflect the structure of our organization. So if we're going into a law firm, we can't take the mindset of, say, an entrepreneur. We need to be able to support the goals of the law firm. We would hope investing in IT would cut our per transaction costs. By doing so, we can enable better decision making, shrink our organization, and we'll see more on that shortly. Technology should be a factor in production, like capital and labor is. It should enhance the monies we spend and enhance our workforce. It'll affect the cost and quality of the information we have. It should make the cost and quality of our information go down and up, respectively. And the last bullet, outsourcing. Outsourcing is a key topic in my industry in that we can't always afford to hire everyone we need to do everything we do. So we look outside of our organization for help. So here at Greystone, we outsource our printer management, our firewall management, which we'll learn more of in chapter 5 and 8. We outsource some of our medical billing just because we don't have the competency in-house to do so, nor do we have the payroll dollars to do so. So we want to focus on our core, which is, we'll look at core competencies in a few slides. Our core is, helping people with autism live a better life, or live the life they want, I should say. Transaction cost theory, talked a bit about already. We want the transaction cost as little as possible. By lowering transaction cost, we make it so that we can have less employees doing transactions, we can have better decision making, we can have more transactions for the same spend. The agency theory is where the firm is really made up of individuals in our organization and they act as contractors. We have costs associated with managing these contractors, and that's typically going to grow as our firm grows because we're going to have more people working for us. IT can reduce the cost of that because we can add technology to reduce the cost of supervising without adding new employees. Important look here is IT flattens organizations. We'll see that here. We look at the typical view of an organization. We have the first two parts of this org chart are our C-suite, headed by the CEO. Maybe we have a CIO, a CFO, a CTO. Then we have 12 members of middle management, and then the rest is operational. By putting the right systems in place, we can get rid of middle management, enable our operational management staff to make decisions. Thus, we've cut out 2, 4, 6, 8, 12 headcount, making $50,000 a year. We just saved $600,000 that we can maybe outsource with or build faster systems, better systems, more aligned with the business and business processes, enabling people to make decisions, can give us competitive advantage. Why is it so hard for people to change? I see it every day at home. We're very stuck to our routines. I see it here at Greystone all the time. We don't want to rock the boat. I introduced major change here at Greystone in 2017 by taking our firm from a paper-based company to a digital company. It took me a good 6 months to get everyone working to the same goal, and it took almost 2 years to finish the project just because people didn't want to change the way they were doing things. They didn't want to affect the culture as they seen it. They didn't want to affect their position in the organization. They didn't want to risk their job. So things we look at, the nature of the change, how it affects our organization, how it affects the culture of the organization, not only the structure, and the tasks that we are changing. The internet does a lot for us. It increases the accessibility, storage, and distribution of information and knowledge for organization. What's that mean? We're able to store data, we're able to process data, we're able to take that processed data information, disseminate it in our organization, and use it. We're able to lower transaction and agency costs. An example they show here, I lived out here at Greystone. Example, large firm delivers internal manuals to employees via a website, saving millions of dollars. Greystone was just the opposite. Last year, we had our HR department rewrite our employee manual. Now, I could have easily made that into a PDF, put it on our website, and we're done. I'll have a signed page that employees read it, signed it, done everything electronically. Well, our HR department was resistant to change and having this type of document on the internet or our intranet, that they printed it themselves. It cost them about $60,000. For an agency that lost a good deal of money last year, that $60,000 could have come in handy. The The internet and placing that on our website or internal network could have saved us so much money. Things to look at when we look at our new system: our environment, our structure, the culture of our organization. Is what we're going to put in place going to match the culture? Will we have a lot of people fighting about what we're putting in place, or can we get maybe bipartisanism? We need to look at the type of organization and leadership we have. Will we get support from that leadership? What are the attitudes of our end users going to be? Are they going to want to train? Are they going to want to spend the time to get better at their job? Once they see a positive impact, will they be willing to learn something new? Exam question from this chapter for the midterm will be about Porter's competitive forces model. It really tells us how we become a leader in industry. And first, we look at what forces competition places on us. We look at our traditional competitors. Look at Coke. Their competitors are, Pepsi, beer companies, bottled water companies, people like Vitamin Waters of the world. New market entrants. Still looking at Coke. We have all these, glamorous type drinks, coconut water, flavored seltzer water. All people that are new to the market had gotten through barriers to entrance into the market and are now competing for that soft drink dollar. Substitute products and services. Again, let's look at Coke. What can we have that's different than a bottle of Diet Coke that I have as I'm talking to you now? Well, I could have coffee, I could have tea, I could have water, I could have any of the food drinks we just talked about. Who are our customers? Who are our suppliers? Pretty much all of what I've just said here. How do we combat competition? We can become a low-cost leader in the marketplace. It means we sell our goods and services at a lower price and as good a quality as our competitor. Looking at some low-cost leaders in industry, we look at Walmart in the retail space. We look at Aldi in the local grocery store space. We look at, maybe Lenovo or, HP in the PC space compared to, say, Apple. We look at product differentiation. What makes our product different than others? Look at Apple and their products. They use proprietary software and power adapters, distinctly level themselves off from the competition. Let's look at Kentucky Fried Chicken. They use secret recipes for their chicken that no one can match, giving them an advantage over, say, a Popeyes. We look at Fortinet. Fortinet's a brand of firewall that I use here at Greystone. They differentiate their products by being able to provide a smaller factor and easier to use firewall. And they also focus on their market niche in providing low cost firewalls to healthcare, nonprofit type companies. And lastly, strengthening our customer and supplier intimacy. I don't remember the exact wording of the question, but it details the challenges of, I think, starting a startup computer business. Will it be low-cost leader, product differentiation, market niche, strengthen customer supplier intimacy, and it might say who their traditional competitors are, who may be new to the market, etc. But just realize Porter will be on the midterm. How does the internet impact competitive advantage? Well, frankly, it can eliminate certain types of industries, as we see travel agencies or printed encyclopedias. Our competitive forces are still at work, but rivalries are more intense. Standards allow new rivals and entrants into the marketplace. The internet cuts the barriers to entry into a market. There's new opportunities for building a brand and loyal customer bases. How do we do that? We launch a new brand on social media and build awareness through that platform. Then we launch a website and an e-commerce site. Once people start knowing who we are, I focus on one of my daughter's soccer goalkeeping coaches who started a U.S.-based soccer goalie glove company by forming a U.S. branch of a company from Canada. And when he started this in 2017, we built out his social media platform first, really showing him and other corporate sponsors of the glove NGA, No Goals Against, in action. And by the time the website launched and the e-commerce site launched, people were already seeing the gloves and wanting them. And luckily, his first launch went very well. And he's still in business today, 2 years later. So congrats to Stu and NGA Soccer USA. We look at smart products and Internet of Things. So IoT, Internet of Things, is using devices or sensors that normally shouldn't have IP addresses. An IP address is just simply your home address on the internet. We're doing a project here at Greystone focusing on smart homes. We have a home going up in Amenia, New York, where as many things we can control from the internet in that home we're going to. We're going to have motion detectors. We're going to have light switches. We're going to have plugs. We're going to have lamps. We're going to have refrigerators. We're going to have water sensors, all which will allow my facilities department to be at that home less, concentrate more on other areas, and be able to run more efficiently. Let's look at smart products. We have Apple Watches, Fitbits, all really changing the way we train. And as I told you in my introductions, our family's big into soccer. Soccer is probably the most aerobic sport there is. Maybe hockey can compare. But it's athletes now, male or female, are wearing these sports bra-looking devices that are actually fitness trackers. They can test how much you've run in a match, what the force of your first step is, what the speed of your first step is, what's your acceleration rate, what's your deceleration rate, what's your cutting speed look like, what's the force it takes you to cut left or right. All a means to better train an athlete, make them more competitive. And what's more competitive? More operationally efficient, competitive advantage, make us a better team. The internet also, in how we market to our customers, will change the price it costs to switching brands. I typically travel for soccer and work and stay at the Hilton brand. I have a very good relationship with them. It goes back to them focusing on their market with their reservation and Hilton Rewards honor system. And the discounts I get make it hard for me to go, say, to a Marriott, where I don't get the same kind of pricing and treatment, all enabled by the internet. As I said, we're not going to discuss the value chain model. Synergies. When output of some units are used as inputs as others. I'm not going to look at the Bank of New York and JP Morgan's example. I am going to look at YouTube, however. So Google started out as simply a search engine. To compete with Yahoo, they started Gmail. But they were sitting behind Yahoo for market share. And Google said, what's the next thing going to be on the internet? And it's going to be media content. So YouTube was a startup, and they spent billions for YouTube, and it changed the direction of the organization totally. The YouTube acquisition enabled Google to invest in its software as a service offerings. Google Docs, Google Slides, Google Sheets, Google Maps, Google Authenticator. Its whole suite of software-based applications we get from the cloud were enabled by YouTube. And the success of their cloud offerings, as well as their sales of ads to jump to PageRank system, enabled them to start competing with Amazon and their Alexa by introducing Google Home. So now Google is not strictly a digital-only company in that they produce actual product. Core competency is what makes us us. Relies on knowledge, experience, and sharing this across our entire organization. As I said, we know what we do well at Greystone, we just don't market it very well. What does Maris do better than others? Here's another thing I want you to include, as well as the cell phone topic. What does Maris do better than other of our competition? And what are some things we don't do as well? And then we'll discuss. Network-based strategies take advantage of firms' ability to network with one another. We can really look at how Facebook has communities within its network that share common likes and dislikes. A great way to build a network within a larger network. That community grows as its size grows, just like Facebook's value grows the more members it has. Okay. We look at a virtual company. So a virtual company is one that creates products without limited by location. They don't have traditional methods of manufacturing goods and services, nor traditional means to market them. They're often used by other parties within, say, a supply chain. The example here is Li & Fung. Li & Fung is a virtual company that actually manufactures high-end clothing in China. What has that done? It's let brands, like whatever the big brands of clothing are out there, focus on marketing their products and distributing their products, whereas they can outsource the manufacture of those products. That outsourcing has led, however, to expansion of the knockoff market and the explosion of AliExpress through Alibaba. I used an example of my son in soccer jerseys. He loves soccer jerseys. He's a big soccer fan and player. And though we don't buy from China, we don't do so because he needs to be instantly gratified. He's not a wait 2 months kind of guy. He does see that you can get near authentic versions of the teams he wants for a third of the price buying from China directly. You do wait 2 months, however. The garments are often first quality or near first quality, but they cut out the middleman. They don't go to, say, Adidas. They go directly from warehouse to him, all enabled by the virtual company model. So challenges to information systems. How do we sustain our advantage? Now, how does Maris stay better than everyone else? How do they stay better? They invest in a cybersecurity major. They invest in a medical school. Okay. How do we align IT with our business? How do we get the CIO at the head of the table or near the head of the table to align our business within IT? And how do we manage the ever-changing change within our organization? All things we're going to look at the rest of the semester. And that's it for the chapter, guys.